Thanks for showing up. All my regulars and semi-regulars when the schedule allows. Appreciate everybody coming on live or virtual. Either way is fine. Got an exciting topic to share today, which is the new rules of flipping. So we're going to get into that in just a minute. Talk about, is flipping dead or is it still alive? We're going to talk about that. Some people think it's dead. And I don't know, thoughts become things. And it's definitely not the same as it used to be. We're also beginning to promote the second edition of the Private Lender Playbook that's going to be happening April 30th, the end of next month. So get signed up for that. If you want to come out, we're trying to pack the room with investors and lenders all in the same room. You know, we get 100, 150 people in there and be like, kind of like the old Quest days of their mixers, but with directed IRA. So we're going to have that April 30th. And disclaimer, as always, nothing's intended for, this is intended for educational informational purposes, not for financial, legal, tax, investment advice. Anything I share today, you're doing at your own risk, and consult with licensed professionals before making financial or investment decisions. So today, I'm going to skip over some of the breakthrough intros because I want to make sure I cover all the content, and got another webinar I'm doing a little bit after this. So those of you who are watching this maybe for the first time, the breakthrough mission put together this group to do what I feel is my personal mission statement, which is to motivate, educate, and inspire and equip others to create the life and business that they dream of, that they desire, by leading through example, because I'm also trying to create the life and business that I desire. And this is a never-ending battle. That goal, that dream, that vision always moves, it shifts. Different things come into play in the market, in your life, relationships. And if we're not committed to a constant pursuit of creating the reality that we want in our life, our business, our bank accounts, our health, our faith, our fitness, then guess what? You're going to fall short. You're going to fall short. And this is a commitment to like show up each and every day, put in the work, get clear on what you want, and execute and take action. So essentially, the breakthrough is creating a community that's going to be built on truth, just real talk, and you guys taking ownership and taking action for your results. Create an environment where we can have these real conversations, not some weird kind of talk, not someone trying to like feed you or persuade you to sell you on something. No, this is an environment with real conversations, and real conversations with the right actions can lead to real results. Okay, but you got to have a focus. And my encouragement to you is to have a strong focus, not just on your business, not just making money, but also creating the life that you want, and creating a standard in which to live by, to run your business by, to run your family by, and to live your life by. So I'm going to hop through some of the other things, but basically want people in the arena, like people who are doing deals, out there taking action and doing deals wisely, running a business built on fundamentals. I teach through the 5 fundamentals of real estate, and I run my life through a have-it-all framework of creating the results that I want in my faith, my family, my fitness, and my finances. And I know that the ways to accelerate those results are right here. You got to first have that mindset and the focus and clarity on what it is that you want. That's step 1. Step 2 is getting the right skill sets that we teach here each and every week. We teach on our Monday night coaching calls, creating the skill sets so you can go and execute, but then making sure you're not a lone wolf, okay? That you're in an environment of like-minded people who are growing, expanding, pushing each other, and also allowing yourself to be held accountable to the goals, the results, the outcomes that you've created, because it's really easy to quit. 8, 9 out of 10 businesses eventually fail over a period of time because they quit. And probably if they were better equipped with the right mindset, skill sets, environment, and accountability, probably still be in business. Because a lot of times it's this intention, it's this environment, it's putting ourselves in the right position to succeed. But a lot of people, man, they're out there on their own and they get caught up in all these stories in their mind and they tap out because it's hard. Like business is hard at times, but it can be ultimately very, very rewarding. I'm going to skip my bio, but if you don't know who I am, research me. You should research anybody that you're listening and taking information from. And my suggestion is you never take advice from anyone in business or in life unless they're exhibiting and improving the results that you desire yourself. So that's all I'll say about that. All right. So I don't have a lot of announcements today. It's out, but I want to say thank you to Closed Title for allowing us to use their space. Check them out. They're nationwide. So check out closedtitle.com. for your title needs, for my real estate investors out there and agents. And now it's time for the show. So this is kind of a hot topic. This is a hot topic because what we're going through right now, I know you've seen it, Ben, is like a lot of investors that were in the market, they're out of the market. And when markets shift, it's these are the times of the greatest opportunities. Good to see you. But these are the times of the greatest opportunities because whenever the market's hot and everything's going up, like everybody's a real estate investor, everybody's an expert because it's easy. It's easy. But when things shift, when things get hard, it's not so easy. So here, this is the environment that we find ourselves in today. Where it's going to be tomorrow, I do not know. I've got some predictions and I've got some projections, but the world, politics, different things always have a way of throwing monkey wrenches in these plans. Okay. That's why like a lot of these prognosticators, I know a lot of them on TV, radio, social media, YouTube, stuff like that. They're paid to prognosticate and make predictions, right? They couldn't just sit there and all the time be like, not have an opinion on anything, so they wouldn't have a job. But whenever I'm asked to give predictions and things like that, I'm always like, the market's going to go up, the market's going to go down, the market's going to flat. It's going to do one of those three things. It's going to do one of those three things. But a lot of investors, like, they're foolish because they typically get in when the market's going like this and they believe that it's always going to do this. And so I learned this, trust me, the hard way many, many years ago. Like, I need to build a business where I can still be profitable. I can still grow. I can grow my net worth, whether it's doing this or doing that. Okay. So what are some of the rules that we're seeing with house flipping today? Well, it's flipping didn't die. It didn't die, but it is much more difficult because the rules have changed. And a lot of people have that opinion like, well, flipping, you can't flip houses anymore in today's market. Well, to them, that is true because they're flipping with some of the old rules. So we're going to talk about some of the old rules and what are the rules today. Okay. And also keeping that in mind is like, once again, everything is cyclical. Everything is cyclical. And now that I'm begin to be an OG, been in this game for a couple of decades now. Like, I've seen a couple cycles, some small cycles, some longer cycles, and like everything's cyclical. So even though this, I guess, this lesson may be discouraging to some, it's just going to be reality, and you're going to have to sift through and find the opportunities in today's market. But those who are stay in the game during this time, whenever markets come back, those are the ones that are able to execute and really, really be able to reap the rewards of staying in the game. Does that make sense? Because there's a 3-month, sometimes even a 12-month lag before the industry, before people, investors, sellers catch up to what's really going on. So we've given imagine it being in a sprint, in a marathon, and we get a 5 or 10 mile head start. So that's what it really comes down to for those who are really in this game and committed. Like they're going to reap the rewards. The others are tapping out. Whenever it comes back, they're not even going to realize it because they've been out of the game. They're like, oh, I couldn't do that anymore. No, you just needed to change your rules and play the game a little bit differently. So what's the old flipping model? I call this the HGTV era. This is what pulled me in to flipping houses. Like, I was watching like all the how to flip a house shows. There's all these shows on HGTV. I think there still are. I don't know. I don't watch that much TV anymore. I don't watch those shows. But there was like a boom. There was a boom. Y'all can sit up here if you want. You got a couple chairs. So there was like this big boom of HGTV and how to flip a house and all this kind of stuff. And man, I was watching those shows like crazy. I'm like, I want to do that. And this was like a lot of people, right? Well, also what was going on in this HGTV area, and I'm going back to like 2010, 2011 timeframe when that really started to become a big thing. Actually, it was a little bit before that. There was Armando Montalongo, there was Ann Merrill, there were several others. Like, they became like B-level celebrities, and in the real estate world, they were like up there during this HGTV era. Well, what were the dynamics? What was the environment during that time? Money was cheap. Money was pretty cheap, easy to get access to, fairly easy. Homes were accelerating because we had just come out of the crash, 2008, 2009. So prices were coming back, buyers were coming back. You still had tons of opportunity because of all the bank foreclosures, right? There was like a ton of buying opportunity, but also selling opportunity. It was a great opportunity, like it was. And this is where everybody started coming in successively each and every year. The amount of investors that came into the market increased for 12 until about 2022. Like the amount of investors coming to the market was increasing every single year.
I think this was the same time when you would stay up really late at night and the infomercials would come on.
Infomercials, yeah. Even before that, infomercials and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Screaming at you.
Yeah. Yeah. Buy my course, do all that stuff. And it'd probably been money well spent because there was, it was easy. There was tons of buyers, not a ton of competition in the beginning, but it didn't matter because there was so much opportunity. So the risk was relatively low and the rewards were pretty quick. Like it was instantaneous gratification. A lot of times you go put paint, carp on a house, flip it, like boom, you're done. Make some profits. So the formula back then is the same it is today. You buy, you fix, you sell, and then you make a profit. But it's just a little bit trickier today. Okay, margins, lower costs, and fast sales covered mistakes. Okay, I'll say that again. Because of the margins, okay, you had lower costs, cost of construction, materials, labor, money, all that kind of housing, insurance, taxes, all of that was lower, much lower. And I'm not talking, not just because of inflation, but just proportionally, it was lower and less than it is now. So when if we looked at a pie chart of our profit and our expenses, like that was a lower percentage than it is today. So it covered a lot of mistakes. So even I would say kind of lazy flippers or people like hobbyists could still do pretty well. That's all changed. That for the most part, that has all changed. Okay. So here's our new reality. Market looks a lot different. There's less opportunity. Is this true? A lot less opportunity. I would say one of the biggest reasons is because of lower interest rates. Whenever they drastically, lowered interest rates several years ago, what happened? Everybody's doing refinances, getting like, okay, this could be my forever home, which a forever home on average means about 4 to 5 years these days. That's typically when people are selling that 5 to 6 year mark. But people have really low interest rates, and whenever inflation kicked up, right? Inflation kicked up. Housing stopped developing for a while. People like, why am I going to sell my house? And I can now today with the same money, I would get less value for that money, right? So there's just less opportunity. Higher interest rates that we know. The interest rates aren't really high right now. They're just high comparative to what we've been accustomed to. Okay. That's really what it is, but it's still a factor. Are they going to go down? I think they are, but I don't know. They may not. Who knows? This war's kind of throwing a monkey wrench into a lot of things, but I believe that they will. I believe if I'm going to make a guesstimation, Trump has spoken boldly about at the end of this 4 years, America is going to be booming like never before in history. And I also know that a lot of politicians do this intentionally, is that typically the first couple years of their term in office is a little bit more difficult, a little bit challenging. Because why? They're setting some things up, setting a stage, putting in some infrastructure to move and manipulate some things. Why? So year 3, what happens in year 3? Oh, well, they're already politicking for the next election, right? So year 3 and year 4, it's not working out. Well, that's I don't know how to fix that.
Oh, you can just turn off.
So typically we're setting up with the next year 3, year 4, new Jerome Powell's going out, new Fed chairman's coming in. I don't know what's going to happen with all this crypto stuff, but something's about to go down. We'll be talking about that. Pretty soon. There's going to be, I believe, a lot of shakeups going on. So we need to be positioned for that. We also know that there is a focus on making housing affordable again. Okay. How's that going to happen? I have no clue. Okay. I have no clue, especially as they continue to print money. Costs are going to go up. It's probably going to come through government incentives, interest rates, and things like that. So we got to be positioned for that. But right now, we're not there. We got to assume like interest rates are high. They could always be high. How can we continue flipping houses as an income stream for our business? And that's what I treat this as an income stream for my business. We also know there's longer holding times on flips these days. A little bit or a lot. We go back to a few years ago, days on market was we were counting days. Like how many days? And now it's like months. What does that do? That takes a big bite out of your profit. And there's just less buyer demand. This is like the most important thing. Like if you've got a product, but you don't have a buyer, your product, what is it worth? It's not worth anything, right? So we don't have many buyers. We have rising construction costs. I would say a little bit tighter. Money's still kind of loose. Construction costs, and should have added in like insurance and taxes as well. So we've got a lot of things that are not ideal. So our margins are thinner, which means that our risk is increased, and your mistakes can be costly. The old days, you can make some mistakes and you could basically outsource everything and still like us, I made a profit. I still do okay. And then you can still get lucky a lot. Like during COVID time, we're putting house on the market and we're getting, multiple offers and they're bidding on prices 20, 30, 40, like over a weekend. And that was happening a lot. It's not like that anymore. And if it's like that for you, hit me up because I want to know what you're doing. On occasion, but it's the exception rather than the rule, or before it was the rule rather than the exception. It's crazy. So I remember like we were putting listings up for sale back then, and my wife's like, oh gosh, because she was taking all the calls on her listings as an agent. She's like, all right, I'm about to get blown up. Here we go. But in 2 or 3 days, it'll be under contract and turn off the phone. So before we get too further into this, though, I do want to mention that flipping is a job. If y'all were here, I think last week, if not, go watch the video. And all the replays are on YouTube, by the way, on my YouTube channel. We talked about there's these buckets of wealth. And the way that we create wealth is by first filling up the first bucket, which is active income, what you do to pay your bills, and how you trade your time for money. Okay. Then there's your passive income bucket, and there's your wealth bucket. So a lot of people view flipping as investing. It's a job. It's a very active job. I have a full team built out and it still requires my time and attention. There's risks there, things like that. It's very active. So just remember that. And the reason I wanted to point that out, it's not passive income. It's more active than it used to be, meaning because you need to pay a little closer attention. You can't outsource everything like you used to and still be profitable. Okay. So you got to understand when you're flipping, you're running a construction company, essentially, a sales company, because you have to do acquisitions to find and vet, go through a sales process. Ideally working with direct to motivated sellers, not necessarily wholesalers as much. You're having to run a financing company, you're raising capital, you're borrowing money, all that kind of stuff. And project management, constantly managing projects, things like this. And flipping can pay well, and it still can pay well, but it's going to demand your time, energy, and attention. And that's what's the job. Okay, so go into it with that mindset, but I would encourage you, like you do have to be more focused than you used to be. Like you just do. Like I was buying houses sight unseen, writing out contracts, stuff like this. Like we're just a little bit more cautious now. I'd say a lot more cautious now. And it's just going to require some more time. So here's some of the new rules of flipping. So I'll say mosey to the middle. So that means like I would position yourself. There we go. This is what I do. Is focusing on median price housing and below. Median price housing and below is where a majority of our flipping pursuits go. So why is that? You have the largest buyer pool, conversely also the largest opportunity, the most properties available there. It's kind of like Walmart sells to everybody, you sell to the masses. There's more stable demand, okay? Even when there's ups and downs in the markets, like real estate hasn't like taken major dips, at least not Central America, meaning like Central US, I should say. So there's more stable demand. The financing is still easier for buyers, mainly through FHA loans, okay, with low down payments, that kind of thing. You typically are going to have faster resale, lower days on the market than like $1 million property. And most importantly, multiple exit strategies. So this is absolutely critical when you're flipping in the new, the new era of real estate. Is you got to have multiple exit strategies. And I can't tell you how many times you flip hundreds of homes, like you have homes that ultimately don't sell, at least not when you want them to. And you sit there for a month, 2 months, 3 months, like how long am I going to sit this out versus let's pivot. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But you want to have multiple exit strategies when you're doing a deal. So you can flip it, you can rent it, wholesale it, Airbnb. We even have a pad split now. Like you can do different things with them if they're not going the way that you thought they would go. Like That's just how business is sometimes. But that's the beauty of investing in properties that have different exit strategies. And there have been times where, I was like, man, I really wanted to flip this home, but I put a renter in it 2-3 years later, I'm selling it for 50, even $100,000 more. And so that was a great thing. So sometimes that setback can actually be a setup for, big payday in the future and doing really well. When you're doing high-end homes, there are opportunities there, but you have to safeguard yourself. Okay. You have to safeguard yourself. Seen a lot of people do the high-end thing and things don't go well and they're done. They're done. It's too big of a financial burden and debt. They didn't have multiple exit strategies and it took them down. So my advice would be, if you've got high-end deals, I don't care, if this may seem like the greatest deal ever, I would encourage you bringing in some partners and looking at some ways to have a plan B, even on those high-end deals. Now I'll give you an example. Was right after Harvey, after Hurricane Harvey hit Houston, man, we were buying houses like crazy. And we started getting leads that we didn't usually get. And these were high-end, nice, little mini McMansions, things like that, rural area, things like that. And in that time and age, I was like, these houses are not going to sell right away. Who knows if this market's, I wouldn't say it wasn't if, but it was there was uncertainty, when is this market going to come back? Would it be 6 months? Would it be 6 years? And honestly, we didn't know, but they were really, really good buying opportunities. So I went to some of my lenders and I said, here's the deal. These are really, really great opportunities, but I'm a little bit not confident about selling them. So we partnered with some of our lenders. We created a structure. I didn't create it, my attorney recommended it, an equity participation mortgage. So we essentially would borrow with a very low interest rate, typically around 4% is what we would pay our lenders. But they also had an equity piece. So when that property sold, if we did really well, guess what? They did really well. If we didn't, and we didn't in a lot of those homes in terms of, we said, we're not going to sell this. So we just put a renter in it. That's what we did. I rented these high-end homes out, paid my lender 4%. And then when it came to time to sell, we sold it and then they got their equity piece. So there's definitely a lender market for these deals. Okay. And that's a really great opportunity for those of you who want to flip high-end homes, is to raise capital with that intention, saying, this is what we're going to do. There's tremendous upside here. But what happens on high-end deals, that profit can go quick. And if there's something wrong in the market, I was doing a lot of stuff in the Heights whenever oil and gas tanked out, and had 4 or 5 really high-end homes that wouldn't sell. It was difficult because I didn't have these structures set up, and I'm cutting $10,000, $15,000 a month just in mortgage payments plus taxes and insurance, all that kind of stuff on properties that weren't selling. It was very painful. And I'm like, okay, if I would have done this again, this is what I would have done, right? And you educate your lenders and things like that, and then there are some opportunities there, but just safeguard it, if that makes sense. Because luxury mistakes are expensive. They can be very expensive.
What do you do?
So, ideally I like anything under 250,000. That's kind of our sweet spot is 250. We're still going 300, 350 and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, on ARV. So it's even more, it's more difficult because when you get into a $350,000, $400,000 home, they're not going to cash flow most likely. If you're buying it at 70% minus repairs, they're not going to cash flow. And I'm okay with that at times. Hey, I'm just going to break even here or come close to break even for a couple of years. But you can't do that. You can't do that at scale because it's not sustainable, right? So we're still 250 is where my, ding, ding, ding. My acquisitions guys knows he puts full force into those, but you get north of 400, we're just super cautious. We're really super cautious. So our offers are just going down lower. We're just really, really, really safeguarding ourselves. I say only always have multiple exit strategies. See, even in your luxury deals, you have to have another exit strategy. So, and that's why I love that equity participation mortgage structure. It's great. Say worst case, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, you're going to get 4 or 5% return on your money paid monthly, and we'll sell in 1, 2, 3 years instead of 3 months. So they're still getting a return on their money. Their money is still secured by that real estate. and waiting for the payday. So even with luxury deals, like always have another exit strategy. Never invest on a dead end road. That's kind of like if you have only one exit strategy, that strategy may be a dead end road. And we don't flip that way. A good flip should work, like I mentioned. A flip, a rental, owner finance. I can't tell you many times like owner finance like saved me, and I didn't even know what it was in the beginning. Like I didn't know how to do that, but it just saved me. And it came up to be like one of my favorite ways to invest in real estate is through owner financing. You could wholesale, Airbnb, pad split. I've got my first pad split going. I may do a focus on that. I don't hate it anymore. Like we went through the stabilization. I'm like, I know I'm going to hate it. And then I hated it, but now we're like fully booked out. And all right, I think we've worked out.
Are the insurance and those are higher than normal insurance?
I don't deal with any of that, but I need to probably look into that. I don't know.
What was your big reason for, what did you think in your head?
What, for pad split?
Yeah, why?
Well, so I'll go, I know we talked about that next Monday.
Okay.
Why did I do that? Because I loaned money to an investor. Okay. And I took the property back, and this is an area where it was over a year. It could have been about almost a year and a half during this time where I first loaned to him. And that market changed a lot. Just the amount of inventory came to a screeching halt. So now there's a lot more inventory, homes available. I'm like, in hindsight, I wouldn't have done that loan, or I would have done it at a lower loan amount. So I'm like, all right, I can, and he didn't even finish the rehab. So I'm like, I could finish the rehab, sell it, and probably not even break even, probably lose a little bit of money. It's a really small house just north of downtown, less than 900 square feet. I could put a renter into it. It was going to be about $1,500 a month. Okay. At the time, it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home, which doesn't even make sense for pad split. So we made it a 3 bedrooms and 2-bath. Okay. Now, instead of renting it for like $1,500, we're going to be around $2,000 a month in income. And we're going to add an additional dwelling unit in the back. I'm going to try to get 2 bedrooms back there if we can. And then so we can get up to $2,500 or $3,000. So it's just to increase cash flow. That was my whole thought process. And that worked in that price point. You know, otherwise it wouldn't have worked in higher end price points. So we'll talk about pad split another day. But the point is I had multiple exit strategies. Okay. So you don't have to panic, but you may need to pivot.
With the owner financing, I imagine that you were originally, unless you bought it in cash, you were on a hard money loan.
Private money loan. I don't want to get too in the weeds with owner financing, but we buy all of our flips with private money. And then if we have an owner finance offer that we want to accept, we essentially will pay off that lender. Okay. So we don't write mortgages. We will pay off that lender at closing, but 9 times out of 10, we will still utilize that private lender capital. We'll restructure it where the collateral becomes the note, the owner finance note. But we're in first lien position, but our lender has security. It's a little bit complicated, but if we have some time, we can go back on it. But you give yourself options. Okay, you always have multiple exit strategies, and you need to know when to pivot rather than panic. But that's the thing. Like, this is the new rules of flipping: is you give yourself opportunities where it's like, no, I'm a real estate investor. Let me just navigate this thing to figure out where I'm going. Like, whenever freaking Christopher Columbus or whatever, like, they're sailing to America and they're hitting a storm, like, oh, we got to go back. No, like, you got to pivot, go around and go here and do this and get to your destination. So your capital configuration is more important than ever. This goes back to like kind of what we were talking about with high-end deals, equity, participation mortgages, configuring your capital for profit and sustainability. So good money, and I'm pretty much talking about private money, although I'm seeing more lenders come into the space where I'm like, that's a lot better. I'm seeing like 9% stuff, 8.99, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, it's not bad. It's not as good as private money when structured the right way, because good money is going to let you maximize your profits, avoid the banks, forget about the banks, move quickly, close quickly, improve your cash flow. How are we going to do that? 2 main ways. And this is what, like, you'll know it's really good money. This is what I mean by good money. Is number one, when you buy a property, are you getting cash at closing? The old model, and still a lot of people are running this model. That's why they have a hard time scaling. flipping because flipping is difficult to scale, but it's damn near impossible if you don't have good money. So good money means when you buy a property, you get cash at closing. People like, how do you do that? Because they're used to like bringing money to closing. You're paying the lender points, closing costs, insurance, down your 10%, your 20%. And now you've got to come out of pocket to do repairs. Okay. How many houses can you flip when you're doing that? Right. A lot of people, it's like one, or none. Like there's a guy here a few weeks ago and his financial situation was like, not good. Like he didn't have any money and he's got a deal under contract. He's like, well, I really want to flip it. And I'm like, you have to have money to flip houses. Like you have to have money to flip houses. Okay. Or be able to access that line of credit or whatever. Unless you have really good money, then there are ways to navigate through that. I would still encourage you to have cash and have line of credit. But if you don't, like theoretically, you can do it with good money because it gives you cash at closing and you can even get accrued interest. And those two things have kept me in business a long, long time when other people are going out of business. So to explain that, let's say, for example, I'm buying a home for $100,000. It needs $50,000 in repairs. Okay, and it's going to be worth $225,000 or whatever. My lenders, this didn't happen overnight. Like it took a long time of building up relationships, but my lenders would say, okay, LTV is good, all this kind of stuff. We're going to loan you $150,000. So they're loaning it to me day one. So when we go to the title company, $100,000 is going to the seller. So that's what I'm buying it for. But $50,000 is coming to me into my bank account day one. Okay. So I'm not having to pull money out of pocket to do repairs. Now, if we go over in repairs, I'm coming out of pocket. But let's assume we stay within 50,000. Maybe we save some money and only spend 40 or 45, right? That's kind of getting your profit early, taking profit early. So that's number one. That changes your business because now instead of flipping one house at a time, you can flip how many? A lot more. And then number two was accrued interest. So rather than making monthly payments to my lenders, which we do on occasion, but a lot of my lenders are like, you know what, let's just let the interest accrue and I will receive my interest payments when the property sells. So we're not cutting checks every single month, right? Does this make sense? Good money is going to allow you to take opportunities that other investors, they can't even do it. Or they can only take one, but you can take five.
The key is that you're getting the total amount of money for to buy the land and to buy the property and to renovate. That's the key. You're getting it all up front. So that's why you are able to get cash.
Yeah. And the lender's still in a good loan to value position. Okay. I'm borrowing $150,000, but this property, I have verified comps that it's going to be worth $225. You know, whatever that is, like there's plenty of equity there. It's not, hey, I'm borrowing 150, the house is worth 150. We don't play. I'm not going to tell you this happens overnight. I'm going to tell you that it can happen because this is how we run our business.
You said yeah, you get your interest. What is it? You say you pay out every month.
No, we don't pay out of
I'm
month.
saying that's the other option.
Yeah, like pretty standard, like interest only payments.
Oh, interest only.
Yeah, so let's say, for example, you borrowed $150,000 and 12%. If you borrow $150,000 and 12% to a lender, that's going to be $1,500 a month that you make in payments. Okay, so let's say you kept the property for 6 months, you paid $1,500 a month. That's, what is that? Ours in interest. With my math's right, you paid $9,000 in interest, but you paid it each and every month.
Okay.
Versus the lender gave you accrued interest. You sell the property in 6 months. Now they're getting $1,000 sent back to them. The $150 you borrowed plus the $9,000 in interest accrued. Yeah, but what does that do to your cash flow?
Oh, I got you.
Because if you have,
You wait until the end to pay them.
yes, because if you have 10 flips going on with those same numbers, you're paying out $15,000 a month to your lenders versus accrued interest, you're paying $0. So this requires building up trust that with your private lenders, but you can do it. Like I've exhibited that it can be done.
Okay.
But this is the truth from this is that the investors with the best funding will continue to survive and to thrive. So reserves are required. It does take money to flip houses. Like we can't go in a time machine back to 2010 where homeless people started flipping houses, right? Like pretty much literally, you got to have some reserves. The number one reason investors go out of business is they run out of cash. Well, it's a lot of times I take a step back. Like, well, sometimes they just quit because things get hard. and they just quit. They choose to not like push through. But technically, people go out of business when they don't have any more money. And that happens a lot to real estate investors. This is a cash intensive business. So you can't run out of cash. Like you got to keep that in mind. What eats reserves that didn't used to eat it as much? Holding costs, construction overruns, market shifts, slower sales, all those things. So you must have reserves. If not your own cash, line of credit, maybe you bring on a partner, what have you. Like we're working on a pretty, sizable commercial deal. It's like a $2 million deal up in the hill country. And like in my partner, like, okay, how much cash do you have? This is what cash I have. What partners do we want to bring in? What is our reserves? Like we're putting all this together in our plan because we know that this venture's gonna need a lot of cash. Like this is gonna need a lot of cash. We just got the quote from the engineering alone. Like, geez, it's going to eat cash. It's okay. Like we got to make sure the numbers make sense and we got to protect ourselves and protect our investment. That's what you have to do. Because you don't want to you already know it's going to require cash. It's going to be your cash or someone else's cash, whatever it depends. Like how are you're going to structure it. You've got to make sure that you're aware of that. You've got reserves.
Sellers who have not been saying it's not cash sellers.
Line of credit. Yeah. Having a line of credit. Some people say, well, I can't get a line of credit. Well, or some people say like, well, I have bad credit. Well, you got to fix that. Okay. That's today. It doesn't have to be for tomorrow, man. So we've got some really good lines of credit that I didn't have in the beginning, but I'm like, talk to banks. Like, what do you need from me? What do you need to see? What do I need to do to get this line of credit? So now we've got multiple lines of credit that one, they help us make more money, close more deals. And like they come in very, very handy. Cause I've been in some crunches before, like, that line of credit has saved me. Because I hadn't had that, I don't know. It'd have been tough. It'd have been very tough. Creative financing is a superpower. Okay. So back in the day, did very, very, very little with creative financing. Okay. You would buy it, traditional, a hard money lender, private lender, renovate and sell it. Well, now there's a lot of opportunity. I know that there's a lot of press, if you will, about subject to sellers being taken advantage of and things like that. So I'm not getting at all that. I will tell you that we're starting to see a lot more opportunities with subject to that are really good opportunities, buying properties like 2.5%, 3.5% interest rate, things like that. So they're great if the right situation. There's seller finance deals that are open are the commercial project that we're buying. That seller is giving us 7% interest with a 30-year amortization, 10-year balloon for $1.5 million. It's pretty good. Could we go to the bank and get that? Yeah, but it'd probably be about the same with all the headaches and stuff like that. So a lot of people don't even ask, but like you always ask your sellers, hey, are you open to that? You're interested in mailbox money, position it that way. You want to get some money in your account every month. Well, what does that look like? Have those conversations. Wrapping mortgages. I'm talking about like on the buy side. You can use it on the sell side. I don't do a whole lot with it. We've done some novations. I'm not a novation expert, but there's some opportunities there to just get creative. In a way that you can do these things this is the way, like you're asking about finance. So I always talk about, with raising money in the beginning, for me, it was like a handshake agreement. We back it with the proper paperwork. So when I was talking to sellers and we're working through owner financing, I didn't have all the answers, but I knew what they were willing to offer, what they were willing to pay, what interest rate, that was acceptable to them. And also knew what I was willing to sell for, what interest rate I would accept, et cetera, how long would the term be? And then I'm going to take that information and go to my attorney. So you do the same thing with sellers. Hey, what are you looking to get out of this? So that's how we're talking to sellers who are in situations with hey, are you open to like discussing some creative financing situations, how we can get you out of this property? If it's no, then we won't push it. But if they're yes, then we talk about it. And so, okay, so we learn about their situation. And the subject to deals, some people we're talking to one right now, and she's willing to allow us to take over the mortgage for 1 to 2 years max. Okay, but what does that do? Allows us to buy them back without raising any money. We could just essentially take over the mortgage at around a 4% interest rate and then fix it up and flip it. Does that make sense? And then we've got some people, like we're talking to one right now on a new construction home at 2.75% interest rate. And he's like, I'm never buying another house again. You can hold this mortgage for forever. Okay. So there's these opportunities like that. So creative financing, it can be a superpower because it reduces the capital you need. You can reduce your risk, you can increase profit, all those good things. So contemplated putting this slide at the beginning, but I didn't. So here it is. So there's this has come up several times on some of my coaching calls. And the story, the first time, like it really was like a big eye opener for some of my students, especially this one in particular, was one of my students brought a deal. He put it under contract, basically without seeing it. And he's like, hey, I got a deal. I should put it under contract. I need to discuss it. And he had sent $5,000 earnest money to the title company already, non-refundable. And I was like, I don't know if I like this deal, but let's dig into it. So on a coaching call, we dug into his deal and went through his numbers, and they were not good. Okay. They were not good. And it was like, okay, if everything went according to plan, I'm like, you're probably going to break even. You're probably going to break even. Went through all the numbers. He's like, yeah, I agree. He was anxious, right? And so he just, like, this happens a lot. Rational exuberance, like, I'm just so excited. And you're thinking more emotionally than by the numbers. And long story short, we went through all the numbers, and I said, okay, this is what you're going to do. Like, do you agree? It's like, yeah, this is my purchase price. This is my cost of financing. This is my construction cost. This is what I'm going to pay an agent to sell and list the property and sell it. And I said, yep, that's what it is. And this was a property that was around a $215,000 ARV, okay, which is our sweet spot. And this is when his eyes opened up, because right after we got finished doing that, I said, but I'll tell you what, I'll buy it. He's like, what do you mean you'll buy it? It's not a deal. I'm like, it's not a deal to you, but it's a deal for me. So why could that be? Who wants to guess?
You're connected and
He was outsourcing everything. So first off, this deal didn't come from a wholesaler. It came from a real estate agent off the MLS. Okay, so right there, and it was in the low $100,000 range. So right there, he could have pocketed $3,000. Okay, and a lot of times people are buying, investors in the old market, it's the new market, buying from wholesalers. I'm not saying that you can't buy from wholesalers. We still do, but you gotta be careful. You gotta be more cautious now. And then if you are direct to seller, what are you typically able to do? Buy at a lower discount. So this is the first thing that investors, they outsource, that you could do more frequently in the old market. So that was number one. Number two, their capital. Okay. My student was raising money wasn't raising money. He was borrowing from a hard money lender. I was probably going to be the lender charging hard money rates. That's why I teach my students, like, you can borrow from me, but I encourage you to not and go raise private money. He hadn't raised private money. So his cost of capital, if we looked at a quadrant, we could look at each of these quadrants, 5, 10,000, here's 5, 10,000, and all that was just eating up his profit. So one, there's a difference if you're borrowing money from a hard money lender at 12%, 2 or 3 points versus a private lender just charging 10% interest only and no points, or you're getting a deal at sub 2, you're getting a subject to deal with 3 or 4% interest rate and definitely no points and very little closing costs. This makes sense. So these are ways that you can profit even in today's market. Number 3, he was going to hire a general contractor to do the construction, which was also my construction company. And I'm like, you're going to pay a premium on that. You're going to pay 15 to 25% markup on that easily. Okay. So in the old days, once again, you could outsource all these things and still be profitable. You couldn't. And then lastly, what was he going to do to sell the property, to dispose of it? He was going to hire a real estate agent because he didn't have a real estate license at that time. He does now. He got his license. So what I told him, and what I've told many people all the time, is like, when it comes to, flipping properties, like, we got to look at these four quadrants. How you're buying it? Are you direct to seller? Are you paying a middleman essentially? How are you funding it? Are you using hard money or are you raising capital? Okay. How are you managing your rehab? Are you managing it? Have you built a team to do that at scale, or are you paying a GC? And lastly, are you selling it? Like, are you paying an agent to do that, or do you have your license? That's why here at the Wolfpack, like, we teach people to become investor agents. So now all of those savings go to your bottom line. And this is critical. It can be a little overwhelming in the beginning. I'm not telling you like, go get your license, raise money and build a construction company or something like that all at the same time. But I would pick one of these quadrants to like focus on one at a time. A lot of people get your license, like get your license. You can make offers off the MLS. To me, my opinion is it makes you more credible when you're working with sellers. And then also when it comes time to sell, now you're not paying an agent to do that. You're taking that listing yourself. And a lot of our leads will end up being listing opportunities rather than buy. And then you move to like, all right, let me start raising money. And you just tackle it one thing at a time, if that makes sense. But this is critical for flipping in the new, in the time and era that we're in. You can outsource all this stuff. If you're going to hire for all of these areas, your margins are going to disappear. Like you just can't do it. There may be a few exceptions to that rule. I know there are some exceptions to the rule, but overall, like this is the rule. You can't outsource all those areas. All right. Just look at, I mean, I could talk about Amazon a little bit, like look at like they tackle one thing, the next, like they just bring it in-house eventually, right? Okay. So great operators win. In the old school, people, they weren't great operators. The market's going up. Things are easy. You can make mistakes. That's just not true. Like you have to really treat your business like a business, not like a hobby. Like you can't just kind of like flip houses on the side and buy from a wholesaler and use our money. Great operators can win. Today's market is going to reward those who are disciplined, that have discipline in making their offers. They know to deals that don't have multiple exit strategies, deals where the numbers just don't make sense. Having patience to know like, hey, maybe I have to put in more offers and I have to kind of say no. And I have to really, really cherry pick the best deals with more equity, right? The better deals. Strong buying, don't even know what that is. I'll be honest with you. In my defense, I put together like multiple presentations every week and I don't know, I forget what I was going to say with that. I think it's the same thing, like really, really buying in a good loan to value position. Great project management. Okay. Great project management. What I mean by that, like before, you could take your time on a rehab. You could kind of figure some things out as you go. I would encourage you to get really clear on everything that you're doing with that project so you can hit the ground running, get that thing turned and back on the market as soon as possible. You need to be really efficient in how that project is being managed and ran. And that's the thing, the market is filtering investors. And that's all, when there's market corrections and there's changes, that's really what is going on, is like a filter. It's the weak investors, the ones that are weak operators, ones that are choosing not to learn how to raise capital, not learning how to source deals and do these things, they get filtered out. And that's what happens in every market shift. Every market shift, amateurs leave and professionals stay. And professionals pivot is what I would say. We pivot, we do things a little bit different. We understand the new rules. That's why one of the reasons I do this event, like I'm out there. Just like Jose, I'm out there fighting, doing battle, doing deals in today's market. So I can say what's working, what's not working. And when things start to change, I'll tell you right now, this is where we're at. So the new rules are simple. Buy better, finance smarter, manage your risk, have multiple exit strategies, operate professionally, short-term realities with the long-term view, meaning like be okay with pivoting. Like we want that cash, want things to sell quickly, but it's okay if they don't because we have a long-term view. That's how people who stay in this game for a long time, they're not short-sighted, they're not short-minded, they're not just trying to make $100,000 on a flip and make all this money. No, I'm in this for the long game. Like this is who I am. So flipping isn't dead, but the easy flipping is for now. That's it. All right. So next week, I don't know if you guys know Nathan Haley. He's an investor agent and built a good little business out in the south side of town here. And he's built up mainly like he gets most of these sources. He's an investor agent, but he sources most of his deals through other real estate agents. So he's going to be here next week in person, sharing some of his insights and his wisdom. And once again, reminder, Private Lender Playbook, 2nd edition launch party. I'd love everyone to come out to this. We're doing the book release. We're going to have food. We're going to have drinks. We're going to have a lot of fun. Nate Hare, Director of Area, is going to be there. A lot of my private lenders are going to be there in attendance. So we're going to have a lot of fun. So get signed up for that. April 30th. I don't think the date's on there.
Yeah,
There's a fun. Oh, there it is. All right. If you need capital, you're not in a place where you are able to raise your own funds just yet from private lenders, you need some capital, check out breakthroughcapital.com and we'll help. Like, more than happy to help you kind of create your vision through your real estate. And then also knowing, like, I encourage my borrowers, people that I loan money to, my desire for my borrowers is that it's a short-term relationship. Like, I don't want any real estate investors planning on being this for long-term you're not going to sustain your business working with hard money lenders. But that's how I built my business in the beginning until I learned how to take off those training wheels and begin raising capital. It was absolutely critical for me because I had some really, like, one in particular, like my hard money lender was really, really good to me in terms of like funding all my deals. But also there were a few deals that I sent him and he said no to. And in the beginning it upset me because I wanted to fund my deal, but then he educated me, right? Because he's in the business of lending money. So whenever he said no to me as a newer investor, what did it do? It really opened my eyes and it taught me some things. So he was a really, like, he put guardrails on my business in the beginning, allowed me to I had like 20, 25 deals under my belt. Okay, now I'm experienced. Now I can go confidently into raising private money because I had I had someone looking over my shoulder with a hard money lender. So if you're brand new to the business, I do encourage you, whether you're reaching out to us or any hard money lender, to work with a good hard money lender in the beginning, just not for forever, because there's a lot of private lenders out there looking for a safety place for their money, and real estate's a really good place for them to invest their money when it's with the right investor and the right stewardship, if you will. Okay, lastly, so there's some new faces here and online, I don't know, hopefully watching the recording. If you are a real estate investor, if you're a real estate agent, and your business it's not where you want it to be, and like you need to take things up to the next level, scan the code, fill out some basic information. We'll set up a call to get you going in the right direction, whether that's talking to myself, Ben, some of our team members at EXP, what we have going on with our investor agent Wolfpack. Maybe you're just focused on the investing side of things, raising money, flipping houses, buying mobile home parks, RV parks, doing land syndication deals, what have you, but you're ready to grow and you're ready to launch. Then hit us up. Be excited to schedule a short call with you and see if we can get launched and going in the right direction. And that's all I have. All right. 103, almost right on time. Everybody's messaging me. It's good to hear you.